Good morning. This is Rod Libby, Quality Assurance Director with the Workers' Compensation and Rating Bureau. Welcome to our third in our series of Mod Talks for 2019. Today we want to talk about how to access an XMod. This will be about a 30 to 45 minute webinar. Today's session we'll talk a little bit about the PDF rate sheet, how you can access your XMods through WCIRB Connect. We'll talk about some data products that have XMod data associated with them, and we'll preview the 2020 XMod Estimator. As we go through the webinar, if you have any questions, there's a question panel. Feel free to enter the questions in the panel, and we will try and answer those during the presentation. If there are questions that you have after the presentation, you can send those to communications@wcirb.com. This webinar will be recorded, and before the end of the day, we will be posting it. You will also notice at the handout panel in the webinar, there is a copy of the presentation, as well as a little how to access your XMod summarization sheet that you may find useful. So why don't we go ahead and get started here. We're going to start off and we're going to talk about the rate sheet itself. But before we do that, let's again kind of revisit an overview of what experience rating is. It is a state-mandated merit rating system that attempts to benchmark an employer against others in their industry. We're going to produce an experience modification or comparison of how this particular employer loss experience compares to that of the industry to which they're associated, so that if you have an experience mod of less than 100%, you're doing better than the industry average. An experience modification of over 100% means the employer has a little bit worse experience than the average loss history for their industry. The experience rating form itself, or rate sheet, it's many times referred to, actually is a representation of the calculation of how that experience modification was produced. So it's going to reflect the payroll and loss experience for each of the policies that fall within the 3-year experience period. You're going to have a breakdown of payroll by classification, as well as the individual incurred values for the claims will be listed. And then the rate sheet also includes the various rating values that are used to calculate, so you can see all of the math behind the actual calculation of the percentage. The experience rating form is released to the insurer of record at the time the XMod is calculated and published. We publish experience modifications, or start publishing them 4 months generally prior to their effective date. So many times the initial rate sheet is going to be issued to the insurer that was providing coverage to the preceding year, and then preparation for the renewal. The rate sheet is also released to any new insurer whose policy covers any portion of the effective period. So once the experience modification has been published, as we would get a new insurer that may be insuring that risk, they would get a copy of that rate sheet. When we talk about sending it to the insurer, the rate sheet is also sent to any third-party administrator or managing general agents that are authorized by that insurer to access that information. The WCIRB is also permitted to release this confidential experience rating information to the policyholder, policyholder's agent or broker, and any third parties that have been specifically authorized by the policyholder to receive this information. So here is a copy of the rate sheet. Again, it's got all the data in here that is used in the calculation. The focus, again, really is on the percentage. This is the worksheet that shows how that percentage was derived. It's reflected in the header next to the experience modification, as well as down at the bottom in the experience rating formula, where the mod percentage is actually calculated. If you are not familiar with the rate sheet and the various elements within the rate sheet, again, you can go to our website at WCIRB.com, and we've got an example of the form, and we've got all of these polka dots on it with various numbers associated with them. If you hover over one of the numbers, it will give you an explanation of what these various portions of the form are all about and how they are used in the calculation. So now let's go on to, so how am I going to access this XMod information? So the principal way is going through Connect. So WCIRB Connect is available to all licensed agents and brokers and all insurers. You just have to sign up. Once you sign up, the insurer of record is going to have access to the experience modification worksheet, as well as there's going to be on the experience rating portion of that particular bureau number or file number for that policyholder. You'll be able to see the percentage that's associated with that, but also, again, you can have access to the actual rate sheet itself. For agents and brokers, if you are the agent and broker of record, meaning that you are referenced on the policy deck sheet as being the agent and broker, again, you can also obtain a copy of the rating form through WCIRB Connect by going through the authorization, again, submitting a copy of the deck sheet that shows that you're the named agent and broker, and then we will provide you access to that rate sheet. Again, we do audit these, so again, just be careful. If you're not actually the agent and broker, then don't represent that you are, because we're going to come after you, and ultimately you may end up and lose your access. So if you are not the agent and broker of record, or you're not the insurer of record, then we still provide access to the rate sheet as long as you can get authorization from the policyholder. And so you do this through Connect. So we partnered with DocuSign for the purposes of getting this authorization. So you can select the experience modification that you want. You select the button that you want to request a rate sheet. And then the process goes through where you, again, so before you start this, you want to make sure that you have a relationship with the policyholder. So don't just be trolling and saying, you know, well, let's see whether or not they'll give me access. So it's always best if they know that this is going to be coming beforehand, so that you go through again, you've requested what it is you want. So I want the rate sheet. I want the 2019 rate sheet for this particular policyholder. You enter that into Connect. You include the policyholder's name and their email address. From Connect, we will send an email to the policyholder based upon that email address that you sent to us. We will notify them that you are requesting authorization for their rate sheet. The policyholder then receives that. If they, in fact, agree to provide you with that information, or if, in fact, they say, no, I'm not going to authorize that, again, that information comes back into WCIRB Connect. And if they have, in fact, authorized you to receive that rate sheet information, then we will send an email notification to the requester, either the insurer or the agent or broker, letting them know that they have access to that rate sheet for the next 30 days. So what will happen in Connect is all of a sudden you'll have a hyperlink by that experience modification percentage, and once you click on that, then you can get the PDF rate sheet. Insurers and brokers, again, as you're going into the WCIRB Connect site, once you find the policyholder, so again, there's search parameters to help you to find the bureau number. Once you find the policyholder's bureau number from the policyholder detail page, you can find their experience modification history. You will see instances where an experience modification has not been issued yet, and you're going to have the various statuses, and you can click on those statuses, and I'll give you a little explanation for what's going on. So most of the time, Again, things that are holding up experience modifications are going to be instances where we're missing experience. So one or more of the unit statistical reports in the experience period have yet to be received. Again, this may not, it may be a subsequent report, so this may be a third report level that we're waiting for. It could be the first report level. There could be an experience rating error on the unit statistical report, so we're not able to calculate an experience modification until we would resolve these kinds of errors. Or it may be that we don't have any current coverage. So we've got all the experience that's necessary in order to calculate the experience modification, have in fact calculated the mod, but we don't have a current insurer to release that to. So it ends up and it's going to end up and be an approved status, but it's not going to be published. So again, these are various designations that you may see in Connect where an experience modification actually hasn't been published yet. In Connect, if you are the insurer of record, again, you will have access to the drill down PDF rate sheet, but you'll also know the actual effective date of the experience modification. So in this example here in the effective date field, you can see that for the 2018 rating, you only have the year 2018. That means that this particular insurer that is viewing this was not the insurer of record for that. And then the 73% experience modification also does not have a hyperlink associated with it. So they couldn't actually click that experience modification to get the PDF rate sheet, but the 2017, 2016, 2015, and 2014 mod effective dates, all of those have the actual complete date with the month, the day, and the year. And so again, there's hyperlinks for the rate sheets for those. There are instances where an experience modification would be re-rated, and over on the farther right-hand side, the second from the right, you see a re-rate number. If you click on that re-rate number, it will give you a pop-up that will show you what the experience modifications were, as well as the re-rate reasons associated with the recalculations of those. So again, even though you can't see the actual effective date, you can see the effective years of the experience modifications and see the reasons why those re-rates were produced. Another service that we provide through WCIRB Connect is the XMod Direct feature. This allows a interested party, either an insurer or broker, to access through their Connect account and be notified of future publications of experience modifications for various policyholders that they're interested in tracking. So you just go to, you have to find, again, the bureau number for the particular risk that you're interested in. You just, from the policyholder page, you just click the little button that says subscribe to XMod Direct, and then you will get email notifications anytime an experience modification is published or a re-rate is published. That email notification will communicate, again, the bureau number, the effective year of that rating, what the mod percentage is, the name of the policyholder will be part of that email notification. As we are getting ready and preparing for receiving the Insurance Commissioner's decision on 2020 experience rating values, now is a good time to start lining up your ducks and getting ready to get notifications of experience modifications that you would be interested in receiving. And again, you can just go in and click on any policyholder that you want. You don't have to be the agent and broker or the insurer of record in order to do this. And if it ends up and you're no longer interested, you can also unsubscribe to XMod Direct for any of the policyholders that you have previously selected. So let's go in a little bit to XMod data products. So these are products that can be utilized by insurers to assist them in trying to automate the process of either feeding experience modification data into their system or extracting data that may be pertinent or important to them. So first we want to talk about XML Companion Files. These are daily files of key metadata that is pushed out to the insurers at the same time that we would publish the experience modifications. So part of the experience modification publication process is to produce these PDF rate sheets, but we also produce this XML companion file that's going to include the metadata from all of the rate sheets that were issued in that preceding night. And so it's going to have the policyholder's name, the policy number, the bureau number, the rating effective date, the issue date, the re-rate number, and the XMod percentage. So one of the things that I want to do today is do a little show and tell. So I've told a little bit, so now I want to kind of show you guys what it looks like. So this is an XML companion file. So again, it's a bunch of data stuff in here. And so this is where the bureau number would be located. Here we have the rating effective date. So again, you're going to get the month, the day, and the year because you are the insurer of record. So again, this is coming at the same time that we published the actual rate sheet to this particular insurer. And then lastly, we have the actual experience modification percentage as well. So all of this data, again, is just an extract of particular metadata from the publication of the experience modification that insurers may be able to use as a feed of information into their system. We also offer rate sheet data on WC rating format. So this is a daily file that is pushed to insurers that includes all of the data included within that rate sheet PDF. So we're talking all of the payroll values, we're talking all the class codes by policy year, we've got all the claims data, all the rating values, the D ratios, the primary values, the rating calculations, the footnotes, the annotations, as well as the standard classifications that were assigned by the Bureau. So this is an example of a WC rating format. So here is the XMod up in the upper part. So again, this is all, the fields are all defined, so this isn't like magic trying to figure this out. Once you know where the fields are, you're able to map all of this information. So for this particular policy, this is the exposure. So these are the class codes. And then embedded in these strings is the exposure that's associated with those class codes. For this policy, this is the claims data. So again, all this string of information is reflective various values associated with the claims. Risk summary report is an on-demand PDF report that is accessible to all users. So this would be an insurer record or others, whether you are an insurer record or not, as well as any insurance agents or brokers that have Connect accounts. It provides up to 10 years of historical data for both experience rated and non-experience rated policyholders. It has all of the policyholder names on the current policies, the primary address, WCIRB assigned classifications. So the way you access this is you would just, from the policyholder details page, you click the risk summary report button. So this is what it looks like. Again, since we're concentrating on experience modifications, this is the data. So again, because this isn't tied to the insurer of record or the broker of records, it's available to anybody. All you're getting is the rating years. You don't have the actual effective dates, but you do have the experience modifications. Again, this is a PDF. This is going to be something, again, that you could potentially print out you could take with you to the policyholder. You could put it in a folder if you were interested in saving data to talk to the policyholder later, or as part of your marketing efforts. Comprehensive Risk Summary Report is a more detailed PDF that is going to include not only 10 years of historical data for both experience-rated and non-experience-rated policyholders, but is going to drill down into the actual effective dates of those experience modifications. It's going to include the primary policyholder's name and address, all the classifications reported on policies that incept within the last 5 years. It's got the WCIRB assigned classifications. It's got all the policyholder names and FEINs reported on policies that incept in the last 5 years, all the addresses and locations reported on all current policies, and all exposure and loss details on policies that incept within the last 8 years. So this is pretty detailed information that you're getting. This does require authorization from the policyholder. So even though you're the insurer of record and you may have all of this information, you can only obtain this comprehensive risk summary report if you've gotten authorization from the policyholder. So that authorization, again, goes through the same process that we talked about before with the DocuSign. So once you click, you find the policyholder details page, you click on the button, it's going to walk you through the steps of, so what's the policyholder name and address? It's going to send an email to them asking that they authorize you to get a copy of this information. Once you get that authorization, then this PDF is going to be produced. So this is what it looks like. Again, you've got a lot of information in here. You've got the experience modifications on the top part. You've got the classification information. You've got policyholder names on the bottom portion of it. Again, since we're concentrating a little bit on the experience mods here today, again, you can see the various rating dates, the experience modification effective dates, whether there were re-rates, what the mod percentage is, and the date that it was published. You also have, again, more policyholder names from the last 5 years. You have policyholder addresses. And then the report goes on to include the detailed listing of payroll by classification codes for the various policy years in the individual claims reporting for up to 8 years worth of policies. So basically this is kind of a summarization of the information that came in on the unit statistical reports. So again, because of the level of detail that's provided, this is one of the reasons why the policyholder needs to be authorizing this information be sent to various requesting parties. One of our newer products is XMod and More. This is a seamless exchange of data from machine to machine, is the idea of it, that provides insurers the ability to design parameters around their machine to decide which risks it is that they're interested in obtaining information from, and then automating and scheduling that process so that their machine then talks to our machine at the WCIRB, and we share information. So they're going to need to identify either the bureau number for the particular policyholder they want or the policyholder's federal identification number. And what will return to them is 10 years worth of experience modifications. If you, again, are the insurer of record for that particular years, you're going to get the month, the day, and the year of the experience modification. Otherwise, it's just going to be the year. You're going to get the current reported policyholder name, the reported policyholder address, counts of enforced policies for the risks, standard classifications that were assigned by the WCIRB, as well as on the unit statistical report that were reported in the experience period. And so again, this is data. So this isn't like a PDF. This is data that is then expected to be used by your system to help in the underwriting of policies or the prior to filing unit statistical reports to make sure that I'm getting the correct and accurate experience modification data. So again, pictures are worth 1,000 words. So here's 1,000 words, literally 1,000 words. So this is kind of what it looks like. So we've got names of insurers, we got addresses associated with it. Now we're starting to get into some rating data. So, and for this, what we circled here for 2017, so you can see that for 2017, this particular insurer was not the insurer of record for 2017 because they don't have a month and a day along with the year. The experience modification for 2017 was 0. But when we get down to 2016, so for November 1st of 2016, they were the insurer of record and the experience modification was 92%. Okay, one of the other products that we offer is a subscription service. This is a weekly data file of experience modifications that were issued for all risks during the preceding week. So included in this are going to be mods that were issued, also withdrawn mods and instances where a particular policyholder doesn't qualify for an experience rating. So you're going to get all of those kinds of notations. This weekly data product, again, if you're the insurer of record, you're going to get with that rating, you're going to get the month, the day, and the year of the specific rating, and then the experience modification that was associated with it. If you're not the insurer of record, again, you're just going to get the years that are associated with that. You're going to have to get the bureau number, the employer name and address, and any assigned classifications. So this product is available to insurers in California advisory organizations after they have executed a contract. So they're getting all mods that were published during from the last time that the product was produced until this week. So again, once a week this product is produced. So this is what it looks like. Pretty snazzy, huh? So I'm going to go through a little legend here. So the little R, so R stands for revised, means that the experience modification was revised. So this is going to be re-rates. So you can see in the top line. One of the things on the top line, you're going to get up to 14 different experience modifications. So this top one, even though you're getting a lot of history, so you've got stuff that's going back all the way to 2009, the only reason it would be on this weekly result is because the last ones for the new mods, but the preceding ones were all re-rated mods. Also for ineligible, so I is for ineligible as opposed to D and Q or something like that. So again, the only reason, even though this one shows the 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, the only reason that it's shown here is because the 2019 was recently published for, and this one would have been signed construction, the name right below the indicator. N stands for newly issued. So for any company, the top line, these were the 3 modifications. So there was a 126% modification for 2018, 120% for 2018, and 119% for 2019 that were all issued in the last week. That's why it's on this data file. And then P's are for previous, so these are a reflection of things that were previously reported. And again, not why this particular data product was, or why this particular data element was included, but again, since we're giving historical information as well, we provide up to 14 instances of experience modifications in the history. That's pretty cool. So again, like I talked about, these 2 re-rates and this new experience modification for this one policyholder was why this was reflected in this weekly subscription. Okay, so that kind of goes over how we access experience modifications and the various data products that may help you to integrate those experience modifications into your system. So now we want to talk about the 2020 XMod Estimator. It's, again, we've had these for several years now. The format is the same. It's an Excel-based spreadsheet. It uses the proposed 2020 experience rating values. These are the values that we proposed to the insurance commissioner. The hearing was held at the end of July, and we're waiting for a decision from the commissioner on the various proposals. Once we receive that decision, we would update any of the values so that it would reflect the approved values. It requires the entry of payroll and claims values to do the calculation. So as similar to other years, you have to agree to the terms of use before you can go any further. If you do not agree, then that's going to be the end of that exercise. So once you agree, then actually the system will launch. On the left-hand side, you'll see the payroll. On the right-hand side are the claims. So in the payroll section, you start entering the class codes. As you enter the class code, you see over on the far right-hand side, you'll see a class code validation. It has to be Y. If it ends up in its N, you're not going to get an experience mod because you've entered class code that isn't valid, and you're not going to have a rating value for that. So make sure that they're all Ys. You're going to enter payroll amount for those. You've got a notes box in there, so sometimes it helps you to keep track. So you put in the year for the payroll or any other kind of note it is that's going to help you to keep track of what it is that you're entering. So after you have entered all of the payroll by class code, then you turn over to the right-hand side, which is going to be the claim values. So again, you got a notes box. You can enter the claim number if you have it, or again, any kind of notes, or you can just leave the notes empty. You're going to enter the individual claim value. The default of the claim type is going to be non-exception claim. So after you've entered all of the claims, then you've got your payroll entered, you've got your claims entered, and then you're going to hit the button that says calculate mod. So after you calculate the mod, it's going to reflect all of those various payroll and loss values in the calculation. It's going to include the D ratio from what was filed. It's going to then compute what the actual primary values are going to be in the calculation and come up with the experience modification calculation as well as the primary threshold. As with past years, you can also change the value of the claims to reflect exceptions. So you just click in the box where it has non-exception claim, and you can identify the claim as being a death claim, as a compromise death claim, subrogation, joint coverage, or partially fraudulent claim. Once you do that, then you're going to get a percentage of the actual to the gross. So you're going to get another column that's going to show up, and you're going to need to put a percentage in there, the percentage of the actual claim value or the value that the insurer is responsible for as compared to the total value. So since this was a subrogated claim, and I've only said that the insurer is responsible for about 12% of the value, that means that, again, 88% or so was being reimbursed by another party. So the more granular you can make that percentage, the better this calculator, or the more accurate the calculator is going to do in calculating the actual experience modification. So once you enter in that percentage amount, again, you click the button that says calculate the mod, and now you're going to get the experience modification that's going to be calculated reflecting that subrogated claim and the new values associated with that and how that impacts the experience modification. So that takes care of it for the XMod Estimator. So up next for our XMod talks in October, we're going to talk about why did my XMod change. So that's always a hot topic once we start calculating the next year's worth of experience modifications, and we'll try and give you some tips and hints on how it is to figure out why the XMod changed. So we will open it up for any questions that we might have.
Hey, Rod. One of the questions that came in is how many people, let me phrase it exactly, will multiple people be notified if they are all subscribed to the XMod Direct for the same insured?
The answer to that is no. So any particular any particular party can request that. So again, if the insurer or multiple insurers or multiple people within the insurer or whatever, so it's tied to your account. So if you've got 10 people that are using the same account, then only one account is going to get the email notification. But if everybody has their own account, then everybody is going to get the email notification that says, I got the mod. Okay?
Another question is, how long does it take to update the approved rates to the WCIRB estimator?
So once we get, if the insurance commissioner agrees with what we've proposed, this isn't going to take very long at all because we've already using those in the XMod estimator. If, however, there are changes to the values, generally we're going to, first off, we need to be producing experience modifications. So our first priority is to update our internal systems with those new rating values so we can start cranking out experience modifications as soon as possible. Once we've done that, then we will turn to the XMod estimator. So I would say probably within a week or so, we would have the new values that would be reflected in the XMod estimator. And again, it will be very clear during this period of time when we may have gotten approval, but we haven't updated the XMod estimator, kind of what the values are and whether or not it is considered reliable or not reliable.
Another question we have is, does the estimator save information for that client year over the year, or do you have to re-enter the claim information every year if it has not changed? For example, if a claim is closed from the time that you previously entered it.
So the XMod estimator is merely an Excel spreadsheet. So it has been data has been user input. So if you save that data, you can save it onto your desktop. You can save it someplace else, and you can reuse that data, and you can change it. You can manipulate it as claim values change, or as you talk to the policyholder, or the policyholder says, so what happens if this gets reduced? Again, the idea is it's a working tool, but we're not saving that. So this isn't a cloud-based thing where we are retaining the information from you. It's up to you to enter that data in and to either save it or change it or do whatever it is you want to do with it for your purposes.
Okay, great. Another question. Are we still able to clump up the claims under $2001 in the estimator?
The answer, so effective with 2019, with the 2019 estimator, as well as now the 2020 estimator, each claim has to be listed individually. So prior to that, when we were talking 2018 and 2017 in those estimators, you could aggregate claims together, and it gave you the ability to say how many claims were in there. So you would say, whatever the value was, $35,000, it represented 152 claims. You could aggregate them together. Now you have to individually list them because we're taking $250 out of each of the actual claim value to determine the primary value. So it just doesn't work to come up with an accurate measure unless you've listed them all individually.
Here's a little more complicated. I'm not sure if you can answer this. The first part is, what is non-exception claim? I think maybe we're saying what is an exception claim, perhaps, but then the second part of the question is, how do we know the percentage to enter if we choose a different type of claim? Can you answer this?
Sure. So most claims are non-exception claims. So that's kind of the default. So this is just your regular claim. A person, again, the person was injured, they received benefits, they were off work, it was medical only, they received indemnity amounts, whatever it is. Those are all considered non-exception claims. So exception claims are death claims. So death claims are treated differently than other claims. So the calculator, once you say that this is a death claim, is going to treat it as though it was a maximum value death claim, regardless of what value you put into that value for the claim. The other claim value, so when we're talking about partially fraudulent, subrogated, joint coverage, there is a liability, a shared liability for these claims. So the totality of the claim is going to be what is going to be the gross amount. And then the net amount, or the amount that you're going to enter in the estimator for the value, is the amount of the claim to which this particular insurer is responsible. So let's say, for instance, I've got a claim that would be a $100,000 claim worth of benefits to the injured worker. They were involved in an automobile accident. The automobile insurer for the other driver has $50,000 worth of liability limits. And so the workers' compensation insurer subrogates and obtains a $50,000 reimbursement from this other auto insurance company for their responsibility or liability for the claim. They would take that $50,000, apply it to that claim. So you would have, in this hypothetical, I would have a gross of $100,000. This insurer is responsible for $50,000. So then in the percentage, I would put in 50%. And then I would run the numbers to see that even though I was responsible for $50,000, I'm not using that full value in the calculation of the primary value for actual primary for the XMod calculation. Okay. Again, I want to thank you for attending. If you have any questions or we didn't answer any questions, again, you can email us at communications@wcirb.com. And thank you, and we look forward to seeing you at our next XMod talk. Bye.